Welcome to Careers in Discovery, your window into the world of biotech leaders. On each episode, we interview the industry's leading executives to understand how they built their careers, what they've learned along the way, and the advice they'd give to their younger selves. After spending most of his career in big pharma, Pascal Lestrate took a leap into biotech, joining Vicebio as Chief Preclinical Science Officer. In this episode of Careers in Discovery, I'm speaking with Pascal about that shift and how this gave him a chance to return to hands-on science and start with a blank page. We also talked about navigating major career transitions, leading in areas where you don't have deep technical expertise, and how curiosity, values, and a willingness to take opportunity have shaped his path. I'm back on Careers in Discovery with Pascal Lestrate of Vicebio. Pascal, welcome to the show.
Nice to meet you, Tom, and thanks for welcoming me.
Of course. No, I'm really interested to talk about your career. Thank you for joining us. We always talk, Pascal, about the work you're doing now. And I think, there's a very, very interesting project you're involved in now with Vicebio, where you're the Chief Preclinical Science Officer. Tell us a bit about that, about multi-pathogen vaccines, about what you're doing currently.
Okay. So at Vicebio, currently, we are developing a vaccine against respiratory pathogen. Mm-hmm. Either seasonal pathogen, that would be like flu and COVID, or non-seasonal pathogen, that would be like RSV, HMPV, PIV3.
Yes.
And basically, at the moment, we are actively working on a bivalent vaccine, and we will have the readout of the phase 1 study very soon.
Yes.
And also preparing a trivalent vaccine, RSV, HMPV, PIV3. What is Vicebio bringing different to other vaccine solution? It's that we are using what is called a molecular clamp that help to stabilize the protein of the vaccine, and so that bring additional features to the antigen that are very interesting. First, it's high thermostability.
Yes.
Second, easiness to purify it. And the third, also the manufacturing process. And why these features are important, it's because from a manufacturing perspective,
yes,
you don't need to lyophilize the vaccine, so it is stable in a liquid form, meaning that you can present the vaccine in a pre-filled syringe.
Right.
That's very more convenient for the practitioner. And also because in terms of cold chain management, if you are thermostable, you have more freedom with the cold chain management, which is very important aspect in poor countries, for example. And then also what's with our approach that allows to do combination vaccine.
Okay.
And our point would be that we would, for seasonal vaccine like COVID and flu, we would have a bivalent vaccine that would replace the 2 shots that you need today by 1 shot for 2 pathogen. And for non-seasonal RSV, HMPV, PIV, then we would have 1 shot instead of 3 to cover 3 diseases. So that's really also that reduction of number of shots that is very important for the patient.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's what we do. And as part of Vicebio, I'm the, as you say, Chief Preclinical Officer. And there what I'm working on, it's, I would say, 2 things. Really continue to work on data, generating data that help to understand better the mode of action of our vaccines.
Yes.
And the other part is, of course, working on the portfolio and how can we broaden the portfolio and coming with new solution that would be supported by the clamp technology.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. I think, a few years ago, of course, vaccines were very high profile and everybody was talking about vaccines. And it seems to have settled down a bit, but there's lots of diseases still out there that we need to control and prevent
Yes,
and things like that, right? And COVID still exists and all the things that were around before then still exist as well.
of
Um,
course.
and I'm guessing, though, that the vaccine field from a scientific point of view has taken some lessons from that period and kind of the landscape is a little different now.
Yes, the landscape is a bit different. There has been a big learning from the COVID period, and a big change was to bring a new vaccine platform, the mRNA platform, very quickly, and that helps really to accelerate the development of that specific platform.
Yes.
So and now it has been kind of shaping a bit the field of everybody is looking into mRNA.
Yeah.
But what it appears, it's that mRNA also it was super useful for the pandemic. It has its own limitation. And so other technologies like the clamp are bringing other features that can be very interesting. One feature is, as I told you, the thermostability.
Yes.
That's really important. Other features that are more on the immunological side, but there are still questions around the persistence of the response that is induced by mRNA vaccine versus subunit vaccine. So that's a question. The question of multi-pathogen mRNA vaccine, it's not that obvious. What is the maximum number of pathogen you can cover in one single shot of mRNA versus subunit vaccines?
Yes.
I think also from an industry perspective, it's not that easy to adapt your supply chain to mRNA. So, and there are big supply chain today that are really designed for protein vaccine.
Yes, I see.
And that's an important point to have in mind as well. So,
yeah. And the multi-pathogenicity is an interesting point as well, because realistically, you're not going to get people to take 100 shots for different diseases that they should perhaps be protected from, but it's just not going to happen, right? So the more you can concentrate that into a few key vaccines, the better in terms of disease prevention, I suppose. Yeah. So we'll come to this in more detail, Pascal, as we talk about your career. But of course, before coming to Vicebio, you spent most of your career in big companies, in vaccines and in biologicals, and we'll talk about that. You've come to a much smaller organization, obviously doing some interesting work, and with some good resources behind you. But why this shift? What attracted you to this one, do you think? And what was it that got you excited about this project in particular?
So first, to be very honest, in a career, there are sometimes things that are deliberate and things that are not deliberate. And then you have opportunities.
Yes.
So let's say that my exit from the big company, GSK, was not deliberate. There has been a big change, and this kind of change happen and are part of the career that you need to deal with. And then that opportunity came. Among other opportunities, what's really excites me, it's that first, so I started in the industry coming from the academic labs. Really in research, and I moved to development, and I moved into quality, etc. And so I was quite far from my initial scientific competency, I would say. And there, that was kind of super opportunity to move back into a really research area. That maybe I would not have been able to do in a big company, because, there you are tainted with what you do at the moment. So that's one thing. So The other thing is that it's the entrepreneurial part of it. It's really, it's a white page.
Right.
That's so you have to build everything.
Yes.
And that is giving you a kind of freedom to operate that sometimes you would miss in a very big corporation where there are a lot of different complex interaction that you need to and conflicting priorities, etc. Here, I mean, this is pretty clear. When I joined the company, I think we were 8.
Right.
Now we are 18.
Yes.
So it's building, and I had a lab which was an empty room.
Right. Yes.
And I have to equip it, etc. And that was really that dimension of where you can act more as an entrepreneur, take your own decision, take the risk, move on very quickly, test, fail, but all that dimension that you do more easily in that kind of setting than in a very big organization. And it's kind of refreshing.
Yes. Yeah, I can imagine. And I want to talk about, you mentioned some of the sort of diverse paths you've taken in your career, and I do want to come to those because I think you've had a really interesting path. I think you started out in molecular biology, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, you mentioned quality, development, moving into sort of that translational part of things and how you manufactured biologicals and vaccines as well. And you found yourself back to the sort of more scientific focus. So, I'm guessing that those different elements of your career have also made you think a bit differently about how you do research and how you do the early science, because they give you a view of what's practical as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. So that I think it's a very important part. It's that, and so when you move from the academic, where you are kind of more focusing on, let's say, how the thing works, then you need to focus on what would be a good solution.
Right.
And that takes a lot of different aspects that you don't know when you start and when you are a PhD student and doing research. And it takes time, I would say, to understand the full process on how you move from an idea or the understanding of a biological process,
yes,
to a medicine.
Yes.
That's and then you have to incorporate a lot of different aspects: regulation, manufacturability, commercial, patient needs, all these kind of different aspects.
Yeah.
And that's what the industry and big industry is very helpful to build your understanding of that and moving across different roles in the industry. Then you are exposed to different kind of problem that you need to solve.
Right.
And so that then at the end, you build a kind of holistic view of what it takes to come from this idea to a commercial product, which is then very useful if you go back into a biotech.
Yes.
And where I would say, in my case, yes, I have to catch up on the scientific part of the thing. Okay, but that's still there. I still know how to do it. But I know a lot of different things that then help me to drive the way I do the research into the way that we will get the outcome that we want, which is to have an efficient vaccine that would help the patient in the future. So that's really that.
Yeah, and I think you see lots of companies that don't consider the manufacturing challenges or the sort of how physicians use the product or those sorts of things early enough, right? And having that embedded from the start is key. So take us back to the beginning, though, Pascal. Take us back to why science in the first place, why biology, why this career for you? Do you think?
Okay. So when I started biology, I was sure that I was going to more move into the field of ecology.
Okay.
I was really passionate by animals, etc. I
Yeah.
even work into a a reserve of turtle in Italy. So I was really in that mind. And then one day I started to have molecular biology courses, and that was kind of wow.
Wow. Okay.
That was wow, all the yeah, so first the understanding of all this molecular mechanism, but then also the way how you do to understand that. All
Mm-hmm.
the things that how do you understand what you cannot see,
Right.
and how you make it visible through different type of experience. And so I get really fascinated by that.
Yes.
And so then I say, no, I won't do ecology. I do molecular biology.
Yeah.
And then in molecular biology, then I get some courses in immunology. That's even more complex system. And then I get really passionate by that. And that's
Yes.
the way I kind of move from. So I enter into biology, but then I discover something else
Yes.
that I found interesting, and I follow. And I think there is a lot of that in my career development, I
Okay.
would say. And so then I did a PhD in bacterial pathogenesis. So I was studying Brucella militensis, which is a pathogen of the cow,
Yeah.
and basically trying to identify some genes that were important in the virulence of the bacteria. And in the same time, I was teaching practical course of immunology and microbiology.
Right. Yes.
And that was important as well because it showed me that I really like also the aspect of sharing knowledge, developing people. That told me that was important for me as well.
Yeah.
And when I finished my PhD, I was about to move into London. I get a grant to work on Neisseria meningitidis, but then I met my wife,
Okay.
and
Yes.
for practical reasons, she cannot make it to London,
Yeah.
and so I decided to stay
Yes.
and then to move to the industry. So that was not totally deliberate, but I'm moving to the industry first as a researcher in a startup. But that was very interesting. But I had weekly contract, so it was tough trying to
Yes.
build.
Yeah.
And so then I moved into the big industry, and I joined Pfizer Animal Health in regulatory affairs.
Okay.
So that was a complete
Yes.
shift compared to what I was used to do. So very in the formal things that was CMC regulatory, so analytical, lot of links with compliance, quality, writing big documents, a bit the arts. It was a bit hard, honestly,
Yeah.
to join that this regulatory affair. But there was, I would say, two learnings for me. It's that you should not assume that you would not going to be hired because you don't know about regulatory.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
there was a kind of because the truth, when you are out from the university, you have no clue about what it is.
True.
Huh? And you send your CV because basically at the end you want to have a job,
Yes.
right? And basically what they were looking were really people who had a good scientific background because they were getting new product that they didn't understand.
Yes. I
And so
see.
they had kind of refreshed its and so you should not assume that you would not bring something into this big company because you don't have the experience. You
Yes.
bring something. So that's one part of it. And there I learned a lot around how the complexity of the manufacturing of pharmaceutical products.
Yeah, I see.
And how much control and process you need to put around that to maybe have something that is produced the right way, because there are always issues. But the truth is that then it was a bit too far from the science for me at that time.
Right.
So I spent 2 years there, very formative. But then I moved back into R&D, but at GSK.
Yes.
And there I was hired as a lab manager for the development of immunological readout for pneumococcal vaccines.
Okay.
And then what appears, it's that there I was managing a small team, developing essays, etc. But then it came quite quickly that we had discussion with regulatory authorities.
Mm-hmm.
And all the things that I learned when I was at Pfizer in the regulatory team was very helping me to be successful in that field. So that's really learning by doing and being exposed to a different area. It can really make a difference because the more you broaden your knowledge of the environment, of the different aspect of what needs to be done, and the different interaction you have with the external world, the more successful you are, because then you become multitask kind of person. You can connect different dots in different areas. So that's was very interesting.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I suppose there's two ways to build a sort of valuable skill set, right? Is you go really deep on something and you become the world expert in this area, or you develop a set of skills that relate to each other but are kind of unique in their dynamic. Yeah. And you found that so that was back into human health then at GISC.
Yes.
And how different was it, to go from animal to human? Was it broadly the same thing, or was there quite a big gap?
No, I would say it was broadly the same thing.
Okay.
Basically, just at the point of the clinical studies, it's easier to do clinical studies in animal than in human.
Sure.
Right? There is a dimension of risk that it's a bit different, but otherwise it was very, very similar.
Yeah, makes sense. And you were with GSK for a long time. You were there for about 18 years. Yeah.
Yes, 18 years.
And lots of different jobs within the company. So tell us a bit about sort of some of the key transition points. Tell us a bit about going into vaccines. What do you think? I appreciate I'm asking you to summarize a long time.
No. Yeah, but I spent 10 years in R&D in the clinical development. But a key inflection point there is that at some point, so I was really becoming an expert in clinical immunology, how to manage interaction with authorities, etc., in that field. In a quite big department, and I was in the management of that department. And then at some point, we had a big issue. And I will not give detail, but let's say a big quality issue that then pushed me into moving from, let's say, a more scientific expertise to leadership.
Yeah.
You need to organize things. You need to put the things in. So this team, they need to deliver things, and for that they need to be organized, they need to be engaged, they need to have the right process, etc. And so that was a key inflection point, because that was kind of the realization that, okay, I have all this scientific background, etc., but no, I need to help that organization to get structure, and so that then we really get the outcome that we want, because only scientific knowledge doesn't
Yes.
Is not enough to
Yes.
do that.
Yes.
And so that was a key point, and I did that for a few years. And then when, let's say, at least in my opinion, the things were on control, it was reshaped, I decided to move. That was a big move. And I moved into what was called the president office. So it was a team providing support to the president of vaccine.
Yeah.
And I was there in charge of I was the secretary of the Vaccine Investment Board.
Okay.
And in charge also of providing, let's say, report on the business performance.
Yes.
So something completely different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Painful. Very painful, but I learned a lot.
Okay.
But
painful in that it was just brand new and you had to learn it, or
it was, yeah, there was that dimension that was completely not operational.
right? Yeah.
See, so no two levels.
Yes.
No team. I had no team. To me,
Right.
that was a super big pain. No team. And a bit like having to work like a consultant on demand. There is no big project that you need to drive or whatever. So for me, it was very, very difficult, but very formative in the way understanding better the really big pictures of the business.
Right. Yes.
When you are in this big investment board, etc. So you see all the different players, the mechanic of the decision, etc. Working a lot on my communication skill, how to write good executive report, all these kind of things that was a bit different. And so I did that during 18 months. A kind of parenthesis, in the from which I learned a lot, but that was painful, and that really makes me the realization that I needed a team, and I needed to be more operational, if you wish, close to the business. And at that time, I was, and again, it's opportunity. It was not deliberate. I was contacted by the head of the quality in R&D, who worked with me when we were dealing that big issue.
Right. Yes.
And she told me, you know what? I would see you. I have a role in my team. I would see you there. I say, me to do quality system, etc. I don't know anything on system.
Yeah.
And she said, no, yes, but come. That's. I want you. And so and I went there, and all the things that I learned when I was in this president office, that really helped me to kind of reset the strategy of that department, build a vision, build the strategic plan to move that ahead. And so, indeed, I came to the realization that I was in a leadership role, not at all in an expertise role. I'm not an expert of quality. I was not an expert in quality system and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
That's really about shaping the strategy, engaging the people, all these aspects. That was a very, very good experience on that. Which, I think 5 years before, I would say, me in quality, I would never go into that.
Yeah.
And so, to me, it's a learning. It's also, don't assume what is a function or whatever. It's just be curious and go to see it, because maybe it's for you and you don't know. And then I did that for 2 years. And doing that, I learned new things on data, and I was very frustrated about the complexity of the system, the fact that it was very difficult to have access to data, while in the same time, all these systems, they are compiling tons of data.
Right, yes, I see.
And so then I start to get interested into artificial intelligence, all this 4.0 revolution. And And so then the head of quality of GSK came to me and said, look, I want to create a new team to kind of revolutionize the way we do quality system in the entire vaccine organization. And then I say, okay, why not? And so I move into a totally different role, not only scoping R&D, but scoping the entire organization, which helped me to really then know more about industrial process, industrial reality, what they need, all the complexity that is around that as well, but also a lot in new technologies, artificial intelligence, system deployment, a lot of IT things, all very, very new aspects.
Yes.
Where again, what I learned at the president office in terms of shaping a vision, defining a strategy, how to make it, how to operationalize it, etc. That was really helpful. But also, what I really liked was kind of the discovery of all the industrial part of what we were doing. So that was a very interesting part. And then 2 years after that, I became the head of the quality for the R&D, for the entire GSK R&D, where I spent 2 years again in shaping the organization, reorganize, do a brand new organization, because that was a merge between vaccine and medicine, building a new team. That was a very super exciting time. And then it came a point where it ends, and where I joined now Vicebio as in preclinical. And that loop for me is very interesting, because when I was in the quality for R&D position, I was really thinking about, I'd like to go back into R&D, but how do I do that at GSK? I think would have been difficult.
Yeah.
And then came that superb opportunity at Vicebio, where I'm now fully back into R&D.
Yeah, interesting. And one of the things that strikes me as you talk about your career, Pascal, is that you constantly were going into things that were new, related but new.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, you seem to develop some of the principles around how to do that. You talked about crafting the strategy, understanding the vision, those sorts of things. Any thoughts on sort of how to effectively go into something that's brand new, that's completely different to what you've done before?
So I think that there are different aspects and different situations. First, if you join a team, you need to be humble and learn from the team. So that's really, and so also you may join the team as the head of the team. And so at some point that would be you to crystallize the vision, etc. You cannot do that alone.
No.
And that needs to be built from the team.
Yes.
And so you really need to spend time to understand what it is about, what are people doing, what are their strengths and their weakness, and really see, interact with them into really value their expertise, because you come there without an expertise.
True. Yes.
Yeah? And then you need to understand what you can bring to the team. And that can be, for example, the last team that I joined, that was more about building a common purpose. These people, they were working all kind in their own area, not really as a team.
Yes.
So that there you need to shape them as a team.
Yes.
And that's your role. They are strong professionals. They don't need you to tell them, this deviation, you need to do that way. That's not what they are expecting from you. That's more about, how you build the team, how you are clear on the priorities, how you bring them what they need, how you help to develop them and how you support where they need to be supported. So that's really that understanding. Here where I am, it's totally different because I was alone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, but then it's about, and so not having a team at the start, it's a luxury because it's a kind of, you need to understand what capabilities that you need and what type of people in terms of value, etc., that you would like to work with. And then depending on the market, then you can select them, which is a bit different than joining a team that already exists.
It is.
So that's a big luxury. But again, then it needs to be for that and select the right people. You need to be clear of what you want to do.
Yeah.
So it comes to the vision and the strategy and how you would deliver it. So that's.
Yeah. And in some ways, I suppose you have to be more deliberate in that environment because, if you're working at GSK, for example, there is an organization around it and there's a way of doing things and there's a culture and there's established processes and all this kind of stuff. So, anything that you're going to change, you have to really drive that change. Whereas when you're going into a new environment, yes, you don't have to deal with all the things that are already in place, but also you have to create the things that you want to put in place. And so there's kind of a blank page. It's kind of like for a writer, right? The scariest thing is a blank page because there's no constraints. So, I imagine it was a different way of thinking about things.
Yeah, and you're right. And so the blank page, indeed, when you are in a big organization, to me, the trap is that even if you do nothing, nothing deliberate, you will be busy.
Right, yeah.
Because mails will come and then you can, and then it's transactional kind of thing. So you have a question, you answer, you have a question, you answer, and you can be busy 24 hours a day just doing that. But then at some point, somebody would tell you, but where are you going? And you would say, I don't know. So that's the trap, because in that environment, you need to kind of create a space where you have a blank page, which would be how you shape your vision, your strategy, and etc. On top. In a startup, it's more, where is the limit of the blank page?
Right.
And which part do you want to start writing first?
Yes.
And because there is a lot of ambiguity. You don't have yet the result of your trial, or is it worth doing that or not? And and there it's about, how can I really nail down the things that I absolutely want to do, and not being prioritized by all the other questions that may happen or not, etc. So that then, because it's very important to the people that you would hire, they need to understand what they will do and where they are and why they are doing it, etc. So, but if you do nothing in a startup, then there would be no mail coming to you.
There's nothing,
and then you would be a bit at the same spot. It's that, but where are you going? And you would say, no, I don't know. But so it's interesting, different situation.
Yeah. But the silence almost forces you to think of those things.
Yes.
Because you have to create that movement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. So we've talked about a lot of things in terms of going into new fields. We've talked about sort of the patterns that have come up. We've talked about, you mentioned something that I really liked, don't assume that just because you don't have the expertise, you won't be hired. If it's interesting, go for it. Any other, do you think, Pascal, key lessons from your career or key things that you've learned that have been particularly important?
One thing, it's really around the value. So it's really keeping on your value. So if you feel that something that is ongoing, it's not right, don't accept it. I mean, don't accept to play down your value.
Right.
That to me, that's very important, because either it will drive you in big issues potentially, or it would at some point make you unhappy. I mean, and if you are unhappy in what you do, you won't do it well. I mean, then you are starting into a vicious circle, I believe.
Yes.
So the value for me, it's very important, and at the end, it's always the good value who win.
Yes.
So I'm convinced of that. So
Yes.
then the other thing, it's so it goes with be curious, but always learn new things. So the learning muscle, it's a muscle that needs to be practiced every day.
Yes.
And the curiosity, that's really helping you to connect the dots, that you would see different signals, and then you connect the dots, and then that would generate new ideas, and that can create a lot of value in that, and help you also in managing your business and driving your business. So the value, the learning, that's and yeah, around the white page. So if there are space, take it.
Right.
Just don't be shy. And it's not because, sometimes it's not because senior management would not articulate something.
Yes.
That you should not do it. And if you do it, like when I start to be frustrated by the data, etc., and that there was a white page there was space. Okay, it in a way bring me to my next call, because the head of quality saw that and say, "Oh, it's interesting, so I will sponsor that."
Yeah, absolutely.
So people sometimes are shy to kind of take the space.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think it's frustrating sometimes as a leader to have to come up with all the ideas, right? And
Yes.
to tell people exactly what to do. You'd much prefer, there are limitations obviously, but you'd often much prefer someone to go, "Oh, I noticed this, and this is an issue, and I did this about it, and this is what I think we should do."
Yeah.
That's much easier to then go, "Oh yeah, great, you go and run with that, you go and do that," than to just have this gap and not do anything about it.
And one thing, but that may be a bit of the reverse way,
Okay.
not exactly the reverse way, but as a leader, don't be too much a high flyer. So you need to know, so you don't need to know everything. You don't need to have all the expertise and the answer to everything. But you need to connect with the people. You need to connect with the ground. You need to, and maybe you don't understand exactly what they do, but you need to understand where they struggle.
Right.
That's really important, because otherwise your vision or strategy may just not address what needs to be addressed.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's a really exciting time at Vicebio. Obviously, it's still a new project and it's still growing, gaining momentum, growing the team, progressing the programs. Anything you can tell us about what's next for you guys?
So what's next would be, we will soon have a readout of a clinical trial, so that would shape what's next. So we are really excited to get the data from this bivalent vaccine, so that would drive further development and where we go. So we will see the learning from that phase 1 trial. We have a trivalent vaccine that is under development as well. So that's the next big milestone.
Yes.
And then let's see, we are looking into, can we increase the portfolio of what we are doing at the moment? And more from let's say, my team perspective, the very next big milestone, it would be in the summer when the lab will be ready. So at the moment, we are still building the equipment, etc. So that's and then we'll start to develop our capabilities in our new lab. So that's the, for my team, that's the next very close milestone. And for Vicebio, obviously, we are all waiting for the data from the phase 1 study to see where we go.
Fantastic. Well, it's an exciting time. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Pascal.
You're welcome, and thanks a lot, Tom.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and subscribe and share it with someone else you think will benefit. And for more podcasts, videos, blogs, and insights, come follow me, Tom Froggatt, on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Medium, or TikTok. See you next time.